Hello and welcome to this video on the half-life of pharmaceuticals. In pharmacology, half-life does not refer to a game that Gabe Newell is holding out on, but is the way a drug is cleared from the body over time through metabolic processes, degradation, and chemical reactions. Each drug undergoes these at a different rate. Each person also varies due to personal factors like genetics, diseases, age, and even something as deceptively simple as diet. This is because certain genes can affect the expression and function of enzymes, be activated by different drugs, or create unexpected complications. In this case, think of alcohol. There is a gene that was formerly called the cheap date gene that makes people more vulnerable to intoxication from alcohol. An associated issue with this is one of metabolism. Some drugs are made so they become functional after being metabolized by the liver, which leads to the removal of a group that prevents it from functioning in its intended way. Effectively, the byproducts are what works, whilst the original formula is just a delivery vehicle. Sex can affect the tissue absorption and the effect of some drugs. Diseases like celiacs that affect the GI tract can affect the absorption of the drugs. Some can either become more permeable, which leads to drugs being dosed too quickly. A more common issue is that drugs do not absorb properly, which leads to inadequate doses. There are also issues with diet. If you take medication on a regular basis, you would know that most advise you take food with your medicine. This is important to slow down the absorption rate and to reduce the effect of digestive enzymes and stomach acid on the body, which may cause some damage. Long term, this can aggravate the stomach and intestinal lining, which can cause health issues and affect the absorption of medicine. There are also pharmaceutical specific variables that can further affect the half-life. For example, drug formulations vary. Some of them are designed to be modified after they are consumed, others meant to be released slowly as a tablet or pill dissolves. Some drugs behave differently in the body, and this is further affected by the way they are administered. Take an injection, for example, where you receive a large single dose. By comparison, a tablet diffuses over time. Then there is how the drug is removed from the body, the primary organs being the kidneys, liver, and lungs. Then again, you have to wonder whether or not the drugs accumulate in the body, particularly if they are fat-soluble. If the drugs will bind to proteins, this can prevent some of the metabolic enzymes from degrading them. You also have a number of other properties, such as the size and charge of the drug, and perhaps most importantly, the initial volume of the drug and how it is distributed. Understanding the half-life of medication is important in pharmaceutical sciences, and particularly in the prescription and administration of medication. This is because of unintended interactions with other drugs if there is adequate concentrations, the depletion of important biological enzymes like those found in the liver. A good example of this is paracetamol, sometimes also called acetaminophen, and the CYP enzymes. These can accumulate in tissues, and as the enzymes become used, they need time to recharge. If they don't recharge, the drug builds up in the body and becomes toxic. Perhaps most importantly, this leads to a risk of an overdose. In the case of acetaminophen, you may get greater analgesic effect from more painkillers, or be more awake from consuming more coffee. You may kill more bacteria with more antibiotics. The caveat is that if you take more medication than is prescribed, the half-life does not expire fast enough that topping it up leads to an overdose very quickly. The rate at which it is cleared from the body is far less than the rate at which it is added to the body. This is what is known as the pharmaceutical half-life. It is also known as the elimination or biological half-life. The half-life of the drug is defined as the time it takes for the amount of drug present to reduce by half. This does not mean that in 2 hours a drug will be gone, but that after the first hour of a 100 mg dose, 50 mg will remain. At 2 hours, 25 mg. 3 hours later, 12.5 mg, and so on. In theory, after something between 8 to 12 hours, just about all of the drug is gone. The practical implications for most drugs are that after 5 to 6 hours, what remains has negligible effect. Contrast this with something like water that can remain in the body for between 7 to 14 days. Interestingly, no matter what half-life a medication has, it will take about 4 times the amount of time it would take to clear to reach a steady state in the body. This means that if you are taking a medication with a half-life of 24 hours, it will take 4 days of taking that medication for it to reach an equilibrium between the amount that goes into the body and the amount the body clears. There are 2 factors that affect the duration of the half-life of a drug, these being clearance and volume of distribution. Clearance is the rate at which the body removes the drug. The volume of distribution refers to the amount consumed, injected, or otherwise made available. This can be summarized with a relatively complex-looking formula. Fortunately, it's not that complex once you understand what it means. T bracket half bracket is the half-life. Lambda is the elimination constant for that drug. VD, other than being venereal disease, is the volume that is distributed, and CL is the clearance rate. In theory, half-life is the same as the lambda constant and the drug dose, which should be the same as the volume of distribution and the clearance rate. The formulas reflect one of 2 patterns: first-order elimination and biophasic half-life. The first essentially draws an exponential line from the dose given and the amount removed. It goes up over an hour or so while it is absorbed, followed by a straight line that is the clearance rate. The second is very different, with the rise as it is absorbed, followed by a massive drop at the start, followed again by a protracted line for the small amount that remains. In both cases, while the body absorbs the medication, it is also clearing it. These 2 patterns are very important when you try to achieve a steady dose of a given drug. As the medication leaves your body, it needs to be replaced to ensure you get the function you want or need. This is called a multi-dose regime, but for most people it is simply another dose of medicine. It is also why a manufacturer advises very strongly to only take so many doses in a given period. They also advise time in between to ensure the dose is not going to be too much. An example of this is the alternative use of both ibuprofen and paracetamol. Using one and then the other ensures that the body can clear one drug whilst the other has an effect, and keeping the 2 leapfrogging ensures that you have a dose of both in your body that is biologically functional and providing an effect, but does not exceed a safe medication dose. Some pharmaceutical companies have partially addressed these problems through the use of slow-release preparations. These are medicines that are embedded in a complex matrix of other compounds that break down over time. Through this slow breakdown and release, the drug can be given in larger doses that are sustained. The drug is not released as a single large dose or a bolus. Instead, the amount at which it is released is higher, and then everything that follows is meant to match or come close to matching the biological clearance rates of the average person. The half-life of a drug is important from a biological and medical view. Understanding what is happening and when is necessary to provide the right medicine at the right time, but most importantly, the right dose. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.